So how has the pandemic impacted China's sports industry? To break it down for us, let's turn to Paul Jun Dong in Beijing. He's co-founder of iAsia Limited and a CGTN sports and culture commentator. Welcome on the show.
Thank you, Gerald.
So we heard there Yao Ming talking about the pressure that games are resuming. Talk to us about that. Sponsors, advertisers, are they behind this push to get sports back up and running again?
Yeah, we have to acknowledge that what's going on here in China as well as elsewhere in the world has been unprecedented, for anybody who are still alive. I mean, it's unprecedented for many generations. So everybody is wondering what to do next. So before they can figure out the right answer, most people hope, at least inside China, to try to get back to normal, the old normal a little bit, before figuring out how to adapt to the changing situation. So yes, from Yao Ming to all party concerns and stakeholders, they were very keen to get back to this stage today. And the very first game to be aired on TV live would be less than 2 hours from now. And of course, some players are protected by their own contracts. But I understand that most of them, indigenous Chinese players, as well as a small number of imported foreign players, they have been, idle for such a long time, training by themselves, and they are also very anxious to get back on the court, even without the audience inside the same room.
Although sports have been on a hiatus, many teams, professional clubs have tried to stay engaged with their fans. I've seen virtual parties, live Q&As with these sports stars. So the athletes really have been quite busy during the pandemic.
Well, some of them, especially those star players who have strong influence on the fans following them. But most of them, inside China, most of these indigenous home players still lack that kind of glare to attract a lot of people. And people, fans in China still follow the games and the biggest stars. And the culture is still not as established as in Europe or in North America. So I still believe that the league and all the stakeholders still look to the games themselves to resume, to get fans' attention back.
Paul, so on that same line, the basketball league resumes. Fans may be cheering, but not in person. You mentioned this. Talk to us about the psyche of competitive sports in an empty arena.
Well, yes, that would sound weird, and also even more weird than the more traditional markets like in Europe and North America. But don't forget that these professional sports, from the CBA in basketball and also the Chinese Super League in soccer, are still relatively young. People still don't have that very old tradition to compare to, that they are not used to this new style. Of course, they strongly prefer to see the sports being played inside the same stadium or gymnasium. But I think for the Chinese fans, because the overwhelming majority of Chinese fans are still used to watching online or on TV. So now that as long as there are games being available on screen, they are happy.